being over in the NBA, it is tough as a woman to know that sometimes when you walk in rooms, like, you're just going to be judged and people are going to put their own biases in front and say, regardless of how qualified you may be for X, Y, and Z, we're going to take the person who's a little less risk than you. And that's real.
Going back to your son, you and your firstborn son, because you mentioned the growth, like watching him from 3 and then to where he is now at 11, and you've added 2 more beautiful boys. It's a different relationship that you have with him because of what you guys went through?
It's always gonna hit different. You know how they say, like, you're not supposed to have favorite kids, like, as a parent? You just love all of them differently.
You're someone who just changes a narrative for women and moms that I never really thought of.
The fact that I'm a Black woman in sports as a major superpower. Like, I got a PhD, so nobody could ever tell me that I wasn't qualified. I may not be the smartest person in the room, but I'm definitely one of the most educated. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
Sorry for...
That's okay.
That's okay.
Welcome to Mama and Her, the podcast.
A space for mature mothers and women navigating the exciting journey of motherhood after 35.
I'm Kayla.
And I'm Shannon.
Your new mom friends inviting you into conversation to help you thrive in your mom era.
We celebrate all the incredible layers that make you, you. Before mom, there was and still is so much more to you.
We're here to remind our community that you are still that girl.
Welcome back to another episode of Mama and Her, the place where faith, motherhood, and community meet. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Shannon.
And we are so happy that you have decided to join us, whether you are just tuning in a quick bit, if you're chasing kids, or maybe you're cleaning up, or maybe you're even winding down. We're just glad that you are here and happy that you are part of our community.
Today's episode is all about celebrating the bold moves that shape our lives. We're joined by a woman whose story embodies courage, resilience, and faith. She's a fellow athlete, a mentor, a speaker, a powerhouse with the Toronto Raptors as a director of basketball advancement, and a boy mama navigating an unconventional path with grace and strength. We are so excited to welcome Dr. Lacee Carmon-Johnson, also known as Dr. LCJ.
Yes.
To Mama and Her. Yeah. Thank you for saying yes and being here. We're so grateful you're here.
Welcome.
You made time for us.
No, I appreciate y'all having me. Definitely been tuning in, and so super excited to get to be here, not on the couch, but in the chair next to you all.
Yeah, no, we love having, it's always great when we get to have moms like in person and have guest episodes as well. And we typically start off our episode with doing like a check-in, a temperature check. So good, bad, ugly. So we'll kick things off with you. And good for the day, the week, the season, whatever you want.
It is off season, so I am great. There was no traffic here. It's sunny outside. I'm blessed and highly favored.
Yes.
Amen. All right, so what about the bad or / ugly?
I did not get 8 hours of sleep for like the first time since off season started last night. So I'm a wee bit tired, but you know.
Wait, you get 8 hours?
That was my follow-up question. I was like, for you to have 3 kids, how are you get 8 hours?
In off season.
Okay.
In real season, absolutely not. But for the last like 2 weeks, I've made it a priority to really just try to, once the kids are in bed, to like get myself in bed and to give myself the opportunity to work on all this beauty rest because it just don't make itself.
Right. I find that so hard. It's like that wrestling between, okay, but do I want to watch 3 more episodes or do I want to take my butt to sleep? Even though, because I know I need it.
I watched the 3 episodes.
I doom scroll.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that too.
Yeah, I think
really
like
need to do
the
better.
episodes watch me and I just doom scroll and then you look up and it's 11:30. It's like, oh my goodness.
I know, but I feel like it's worth it.
I'm watching, there's this show on Amazon Prime, it's called House of David.
Yeah,
and I love it. It's such a good show. Like anyone who out there, if you haven't, you can add that to your list. But I'm on the last episode, like whatever it is, episode 8.
So you have to finish it.
I have to finish it. And I'm like 0 for 3 because the last 3 times I've attempted, I've done exactly what you did. And I'm just doom scrolling and then the show's watching me and it's like, are you still there? I'm like, no.
Here's the key. You have to go plug it into the charger and get
leave
it
it
away
alone.
from you. And so then
No,
you
I
can
turn on my
focus.
do not disturb because the temptation to try to do it all is there. But if you really want to watch a show, you got to watch the show and that show is amazing. That show is so well done.
Yeah,
So
it's really, really good. Yeah, Shannon, how about you?
The good is just the weather. I just love it. I can't wait to my tan to just be a little bit darker, but you know, it's just the feeling of the sun and just that warmth. It's just in Canada, it just feels like we won the lottery. It happens.
My kids think it's summer right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So wait,
I
yeah.
hate to break it to them.
Wait,
it's
this
not.
is how many times have they been in Canada for summer?
They have not.
Oh, this is their first summer in Canada.
Well, we typically leave at the end of once school is over. So,
Right.
Summer in Toronto doesn't start until
no,
like July.
But this was their
August.
first winter, though.
No, we've had 4 winters.
4
now.
winters,
Yeah.
okay.
And this was like a real one.
Yeah, it was real.
Yeah.
Realer than last year.
But coming from the South, you mentioned Texas being your home state.
Yes, it's my home state, but my kids have all been born in different places, kind of in like South, Midwest, and I have one little Canadian as well.
yeah?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll get into that. We're going to get into like why you have multicultural or multi-country citizens as children and all of that good stuff in your story. Okay, so that was
good. The bad is just now that you said, I need to sleep more. I'm tired and I need to sleep. So
Yeah. I
I
hear
thank
that.
you for that reminder. What about you?
I guess I'm like the three of you. I think the weather makes everything just better because if it wasn't as long of a winter that we had, I don't think it was like a bad winter. I think we've had worse, but the length of it, because it's like, why am I still in my winter jacket in April? Like, make it make sense. Like, so now that I think we can finally ditch the winter gear, I've packed it up. I'm like, that's it. It's whether we get one more random snowstorm, then I guess I'm going to be out of luck. I don't know, but I'm way more happy. And then, I was able to, I golfed for the first time this season. I'm so happy. And that was a 10 out of 10 for me. So, and it was just, and I picked a good day. So sun was shining. I'd say that's definitely my highlight. Bad is that my daughter headbutted a kid in school, and getting that call as a mom, I was like,
Was it an accident? Was it on purpose? Was it warranted?
You be the judge here. Okay, Lacey. So I get the call and they're like, everything's fine. However, we did have to report an incident because it's regarding your daughter's head. But at recess, she was on a bike and there was a student that came up to her and said that they wanted the bike. And so then they pushing and shoving kind of thing over the bike ensued. And then a headbutt took place.
So it sounded like it was warranted. Don't come for me unless I send for you.
So I'm trying
That's
to teach
what
my
I'm
daughter
hearing.
boundaries, right?
That's what I'm hearing.
But at the same time, like maybe we use words versus heads.
The head is pretty she's sending a message.
I don't think she'll have any more issues.
I was that parent. I was like trying not to laugh as I'm getting this. I'm like, be serious, stay
man.
focused. So that's the bad. That's the bad.
Oh, and next we do a God wink. So something that you feel, you know what a God wink is, right? I feel like I wouldn't have to explain it, but something that you feel that as a message from God, not a coincidence, something that has just reminded you of something that you feel like you needed to hear.
Well, when I was driving over here today, hopefully I don't get emotional about this, but I was looking at the date and with the podcast being Mama and Her, and like one of the most influential figures in my life is my grandmother, and today is her heavenly birthday.
Oh, happy heavenly birthday.
Happy birthday. That is a God wink. That is your God wink.
That's my girl.
You guys were really close.
Yeah. And it's been a while, but like I always say, like that's my top homie.
Yeah.
Never anybody like her, and so much of like what I've learned, I feel like as a woman, I definitely can see so many of those signs like throughout my life. So
I can definitely, I relate like that. There's something about a grandmother's love. It's just different than a mom, an aunt, a sister. Yeah. So, and if you're fortunate enough to have like, a strong bond, I think it's just more special. There's just something about it. They love like a mother, but different.
yeah.
So yeah, but no, that's definitely a God wink. Do you have one, Shannon?
Let me think about it. You go.
Okay. I will say for me, it's not really I guess it's been a God wink. I'll just say lately, so I'm in a Bible study group right now, and we're reading the Bible, like front and back. And personally, I actually have never done that before. And so when I said yes to doing this, I was kind of like, can I do this? Like, I don't know. Like, am I up for it? Like, because I've always been intimidated by the Old Testament, and I kind of was like, oh, I'm going to fall asleep to this, because in the past I have, right? But yeah, I'll just say the God wink has just been like over time, like day in and day out. And we have like an accountability group, like, so we don't talk every day, but what we do is we'll send a text message with an emoji. So like today's emoji is, a thumbs up. Tomorrow's emoji might be a sunshine, or whatever the case is, just letting you know that like you did today's reading. And I think it's been a God wink that I genuinely wake up now and I'm excited. Like, what am I going to read today? And what am I going to learn? And there's been like fresh revelation. Like there's like, right now I'm in Matthew, and I've read Matthew many times before, but like getting fresh revelation by rereading certain things, I think is pretty dope. And the idea that like I'm waking up every day now as part of my morning routine, and I look forward to whatever I'm going to read, like my 30 to 40 minutes with God, I think that's a God wink in and of itself. So yeah.
I love that. Okay, thought of one. So one of my former athletes and students, she's back from her school. She entered the transfer portal. Again, love you, Abby, but like, girl. So her dad's a pastor, and I met Abby when she was in grade 4, and I taught her how to play basketball. And she's a D1 athlete, D1 scholarship athlete. And her parents invited us over for dinner, and her dad said to me, like, I was the reason why all of her siblings play basketball, because Abby's in the middle. But because Abby started playing, now all of them play. And he was just like, you're the reason. And I've said this before. Sometimes I question, like, if I've made a difference in kids' lives all the time. I just feel like I never do enough, or even now I've stepped away a bit from teaching. He just reminded me, like, even the seeds I've planted are still flourishing, and she's 21, right? And she's my son's godmother. So it's just beautiful to hear when people remind you of your purpose and your greatness. So that was my God wink. And that's it. That was the little buzzer.
And that was the perfectly timed. So that's the end of quarter 1. So we will take a quick break, come back for quarter 2, and we're going to find out, all things Dr. Lacee and like your origin story and all that good stuff. So stay with us. You're watching Mama and Her. We'll be right back. Welcome back to quarter 2 of Mama and Her. We are sitting down with Dr. Lacee. And so, you know what? I know a little bit about your story. I know Shannon knows a lot about your story, but our community at home listening may not know anything about your story. So let's just start from the beginning. Tell us a little bit about who you are and how it got you to Toronto, Canada.
Ooh, I don't know if we have enough time, but I'll do my best. So I am, as we mentioned before, I'm born and bred in the great state of Texas. Sometimes a little bit embarrassed about how we're acting right now, but yes, I'm a Texas girl through and through. Actually just did like a little photo shoot for my birthday, and I had my cowboy boots so I was like super excited about that, to bring that back out. But yeah, actually I left Texas in 2009 and haven't looked back, other than just, going for visits and seeing family and whatnot. And that's where we kind of make home for the summer. But I think my grandmother put it best at one point when she was looking at me and my kid, my oldest son. She was like, gosh, I just never expected you to be a mom and you to be in this position. And I think part of it was like, oh, you're so selfish. But I like to think of it as I was the one that was just like super ambitious. And so when I left, like, there was no turning back. It was always like, what's going to be bigger? What's next? How am I going to get there? And like, what vehicle am I going to use to make it all work? And sports was that for me. So,
love that.
Started coaching, did that for many years, then moved in kind of the sport administration, like student athlete development, academic realm, and then got into player development, which is what brought me here. I remember I got the call or the email from the Raptors, and I thought it was a joke. I was like, okay, let me check the signature and the actual email to make sure it all matches and it's not like spam. And then I had to look up the person's name, and I'm like, I don't know if this is real. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll like take this call. And, a year later, here we are. And it's been 4 seasons, just finished up with the Raptors, and live a very chaotic, interesting life with my husband and our 3 boys here.
Can you just break down player development? Because I think some people might not know what that entails.
Yes. So let me be clear. I handle kind of off-court player development, which we title basketball advancement. So reimagining what that looks like, I think, in the space. I do not coach anybody to shoot the ball, dribble the ball, put the ball in anybody's basket, getting points. Like that's not.
You're off the hook.
Let me be very clear, because the way my LinkedIn DMs and all of the things that I'm getting when people are sending me their basketball resumes, and I'm like, that's not me. Mm-hmm. I don't have anything to do with that. So yes, I really kind of operate in the intersection of like service and development. So making sure folks are operationally like where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there, but then also helping to like identify those growth areas of potential like that are going to help them on the court, but that's also going to help them in life. And then helping with brand, just overall growth, and really helping to set up that now and that platform that they have and what they're going to do next.
So I feel like, especially as a mom, is there a bit of that motherly instinct that almost has to come in, like connecting with, we're talking some guys as young as like 19, 20, right? Straight out of college, new to the league, rookie status, and needing guidance. And I would imagine like you bring a certain level of definitely wisdom, and groundedness, especially in a world that is pure chaos, when these young men are thrown into the National Basketball Association.
Yeah, I definitely say that like working with athletes taught me how to be a mom, and then being a mom has helped me be better and more understanding of being able to give chance after chance to, thrive in this environment, sometimes survive for some folks, and then, to help them to also thrive as well. And so it's a level of grace. I don't know if I would look at it and say like, oh, it's the nurturing, mothering, because sometimes I try to get away from that, especially as a woman in this industry.
Male-dominated industry.
Yeah, like you don't want to always be like the soft person. And I think you can ask some of my athletes like, what I'm going to be is a truth teller, and I'm always going to keep it 100. Like every single time, and like I'm gonna love you hard, but I'm also going to make sure to help to steer you in the right direction as well.
Mm-hmm. Can you just, because we skipped a little ahead a bit, but can you just talk to us about how your journey to motherhood quickly, like, because you have 3 boys, again, all different, different stories and whatnot. Can you bring us back to your journey to motherhood?
Yeah, so with my oldest son, it's interesting because all of my son's names kind of have like significance as to like where I was, in that part of my life. And my oldest son, so I've been doing this for over a decade. He's 11 and a half now. He's my height. We wear the same size shoe. I feel a type of way about it, yes. But when it took a while for us to get pregnant with him. And so his name is Ace Dominic. It's one of the Lord. And speaking of reading the Bible, in Samuel, it said, for this child I have prayed. And so that was like the verse that I really, kind of meditated on throughout my pregnancy. And it was the verse that I posted, like when I was announcing that he was here. And so his dad actually passed away when he was 3, almost 4 years old. So we've had, kind of an interesting journey where for a while it was just us. And then I met my current husband, and we moved pretty quickly, but it was one of those things like, okay, well, what are we doing? And like, are we fully bought into this? And like from day one, that was the case. And it's very true. Like when you know. Mm-hmm. And ended up having our second son, Duke. And I think both of us were like in that leadership era of our lives where we were just very strong, like in our careers, making a lot of moves. We had both kind of like taken different positions and like growth and elevation. And so like Duke means leader. And then as we moved to...
I thought he might have been named after the school, the basketball program.
Oh, no. And then we got to Toronto, and in the process of moving here, in between Duke and our youngest son, Jax, we experienced 2 miscarriages, one that was pretty traumatic. And then as I actually showed up to go to a specialist that my doctor referred me to, we go through all of the procedures, or not procedures, but all the conversation of what we're supposed to do. And she calls me back like a week later and she was like, you're really pregnant already again. And I was like, oh, okay. So be fruitful and multiply is what we continue to do. And so baby Jax, he is 18 months now. And Jax means God is gracious.
Wow.
So.
What a journey in motherhood over the last 11 years. I want to ask, going back to your first son, how was that balancing being a young mom and then also mourning your husband and essentially being a single mom, but also a widow? How was that while also juggling a career?
Yeah. My mom once asked me like, oh, how do you do it? And I was like, well, there's no other option. What do you mean? And she was like, no, there's a lot of people who wouldn't be able to, kind of deal in the same circumstances. And I didn't understand that, I think, until most recently, because in the college landscape, there's been quite a few, not quite a few, but there have been more than necessary like women who have lost their husbands, whether they've been coaches, administrators. Actually, my son's godfather passed away as well. So, and he was an administrator in the college landscape. And so like kind of seeing how other women are dealing and handling in those situations, it's like, okay, well, everything that God puts you through, it's for a reason. And so there was a very specific reason why we chose this family to be godparents. And like, there's even now a stronger connection, in that. Right. But I think just like navigating with him, like from the beginning, it was always, we're a team. That's what I told him. Like from that day on, it was like, all right, we got to figure out how we're going to do this, how we're going to navigate this. And I'm sure like probably telling a 3, almost 4-year-old isn't the best thing. But like I have videos of him like pulling in the trash and, at 4 years old and looking at who he is now as an 11-year-old, it really like personifies like being the ultimate teammate. And it's something that I've like truly like stuck by, not only as myself, but like how I want to envision the people around me as being the ultimate teammates, like in my life, me being the ultimate teammate for them, and hoping to just continue to like build on that and, being what the world is kind of missing right now and being ultimate teammates to each other.
Yeah. The way you speak, you definitely have that athlete mentality, coach mentality. You didn't really touch on your athlete years, but how did you being an athlete prepare you for this and these moments and motherhood? How would you say that helped you?
I was like never the best athlete. I mean, at least I wasn't the best athlete. And I think in my mind, I don't always give myself the credit that I probably should. I was a Division I track and field athlete, so
I mean that's pretty. I saw a picture of you hurdling.
I was pretty good. Qualified for what is nationals now, and I was a walk-on athlete too. So you always
that's even harder.
Yeah, and it's like that chip on your shoulder,
absolutely,
right? That mentality that I'm not the best, but I may not have the best talent. But one thing people are not going to be able to do is outwork me, and they weren't going to have like the same type of heart that I needed to give. And so, even playing basketball, like had one of the top teams in the state of Texas in high school, and a lot of my teammates went on to play like Division I basketball and whatnot. And so it's like cool to understand like what your role is in those spaces. And I think that's what a lot of being an athlete taught me. It taught me how to be competitive. It taught me how to win. But I think most importantly, it taught me how to fail and how to fail forward. And so that's something that like I'm always going to bring as I move into like the different steps and areas of my life, because like things aren't going to be perfect. But guess what? I'm going to figure out a way and I'm going to make it work.
Absolutely. But you know what? I think the factor that you mentioned, you being a walk-on and then you kind of noting like, okay, I can see that I may not necessarily be like the number one recruit per se, but that chip on your shoulder, that underdog mentality, I truly believe, and I can relate to that because I had the same too myself in the world of volleyball. I think that grows an unwavering level of tenacity and resiliency, and it carries over outside the court, outside the field, outside the pitch, whatever you want to, and it overflows into our lives, whether it be as career women or whether it be as even as moms. But that resiliency, lo and behold, is what you needed as you prepared to. Little did you know what was on the horizon in the next season of life for you. Going back to your son, you and your firstborn son, because you mentioned the growth, like watching him from 3 and then to where he is now at 11, and you've added 2 more beautiful boys. But it's different, I'm sure. It's a different relationship that you have with him because of what you guys went through?
Yeah, most definitely. He wrote my birthday card this year. He was like, thank you for always being there, especially when it was just us, like when the times were hard.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's always going to hit different. You know how they say, like, you don't have, or you're not supposed to have favorite kids, like, as a parent. I think you just love all of them differently. Like, there are different things about them. And so, like, this here is kind of like my thought of the boys. But, like, Ace is like my thumb. Like, he's my just that strong piece. Duke is my leader, my pointing finger. And, like, Jax is, like, my strength and that perspective that I didn't know that I needed. And it's like, you don't have your pinky. Like, you don't realize how much you need it until you don't have it. Yeah. But it's also, I love you.
No, you know what I admired? So I met you at a coaching clinic with Hoop Queens, and I remember seeing you standing at the front, and then I looked at the back, and all your 3 boys were at the back, and I was so impressed. Like, I don't know, not to say I don't like bringing my kids places, but that stress of thinking of, I know you do it a lot because you don't have a choice, right? That's what you do. And
That's what you do.
It's just like, I have a choice, and often I don't bring them places. But I was so impressed just how you carried yourself, and like, even just I was like, wow, like, you're a mom, but you're this powerful woman who has dreams, who's making moves. And I was just so impressed. And I just think, like, I don't know, I just think you're someone who just changes a narrative for women and moms that I never really thought of, because I see you in a space that I would love to be in. But to think of, like, my kids are over there in the corner, but I think we'll touch on this later, but how did you juggle, this massive career change into a professional league with your kids and balancing, I guess, your marriage and all that stuff? Like, how did you find that shift and that change?
Well, I think to, like, take a step back, I look back at, like, my mom, my aunts, my grandmother, they were all, like, working women. They were married. Like, I think I just chose a path of sports. And so I knew that, okay, if I'm going to be married and, like, I want a family, okay, then I'm just going to make it work, and I'm still going to, like, do sports. And so with, like, Ace grew up. Ace was a 5-year-old college student, right? He's hanging out he's coming to study hall. Like, he has been from the baby carrier on, like, he has been at work with me. Yeah. I think the other 2 haven't been able to experience as much, because in moving into, like, the pro space, like, not saying that there's not as much access, but I'm just, like, traveling more, I'm gone more. Like, on game days, I have responsibilities, so you can't just, like, come and hang out in the back, or if they do come to the games, they sit in the stands, and, like, I can come and say hi, I can bring you some snacks, and then, like, I gotta go because there's something else that, like, needs to be done. But you just kind of, like, you manage it, and my husband does not work in Canada. So that adds, like, a completely different layer to...
Yeah. We'll take 2 steps back then. Break that down, how you work for a pro team in Canada. Your husband is back in the U.S. in Texas, or in a different state?
He's currently working, like, out of Indiana.
Okay.
Yes, which is where we were before we moved to Toronto. And so when I remember when he made the move from Texas to Indiana, I told him, I was like, look, I don't plan to be here forever. So, like, I don't know where we're going next, but, like, I'll take these kids, and, like, we'll be making a move, and, like, we're going to have to figure this out. Like, it wasn't going to be that I had to choose my relationship or I had to choose my career. Like, that was a non-negotiable for me within our relationship, because I was adamant about I was not going to take any steps back, and I also didn't expect him to take any steps back. We're both very faith-driven, so in our mind, it's like, we'll figure it out, and we're going to make it work. So when we moved here, it was still COVID, so we had the opportunity where he could kind of, work virtually, and my mom came up with us, and she was, like, a huge huge godsend, for us, because we didn't have to pay like nanny, childcare, all that. Like, she was just here. She made sure the kids were fed. She kept us fed. There was a stable body in the household, and whatnot. And so, now we've like had to make some adjustments. We do have a different childcare setup. My husband is like now traveling quite a bit with his job. So like,
is he in athletics as well?
He is in athletics. And so if you look at like his calendar, and like he has his work calendar, my work calendar, our family calendar, the kids stuff. So it is like, it's true chaos. Like I tell all the time, we're a circus. We are a walking circus. If y'all saw us when we traveled down to women's Final Four, like we're a circus. He took 2 of the kids down the day before. I took the baby down because I had a game the night before. I went down that morning. He had to speak that morning at the same event that I was going to. I showed up. He picked me up from the airport, or picked us up from the airport. We get to the hotel, and then I had to speak that afternoon at the same event. And it's like, there's literally a picture of like the baby walking up to me in the middle of the speaking engagement, which Shannon just mentioned about how like we bring our kids because we believe in showing our kids like the impact that can be made. And it was a handoff. Like I had the baby, and there was kind of like a visualization period for some of the athletes that I was working with. I had the baby, and then it was like time for me to talk again. And so I handed the baby off, and like there's a literal picture of it happening. And if like, that's not your chaos life that I that I live in. And my other kids are in the back with their headphones on watching, their iPad. And I think the oldest is like, he always has his headphones in, but he's listening. Like he's listening, he's paying attention. And they, like, he hasn't quite figured out what he wants to do, with his life. He's 11, other than I want to be a professional athlete.
Right.
But he has always said, like, I want to do something that makes people, like, feel the way that y'all do. It's not necessarily that he wants to work in the same type of role that we do, but he wants to have that type of impact. And it's like, look, I'm doing something right in this world.
That is profound. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's just so nice to see that. And you just own it. And that's the thing. You didn't say, oh, sorry, my kids are in the back. Like you didn't. Yeah. And I just love that. And I think even when I see Kayla bring Kennedy everywhere, and I'm like, good for you. Like, good for you. And there's opportunities I should. And I think you guys will not see the benefits of that in your children until a little bit later. But it's I love it, and I sing your praises, and I really want to do more of that, because it's okay. It's okay, to bring your kids along, and they adjust so well. I said, I'm like, Kennedy's so, like, I could never, like, even when my kids came to Hoop Queens for the first time, I hadn't coached at all since they were born. So this was the first time they saw me coaching. Yes, they were running across the floor, while my coaching partner, her kids were just sitting there because they're used to it, right? Yeah. So it's all about teaching and giving them that opportunity. But anyways, I love that. I love that about you.
Yeah. Like you said, when it was just you and your first, like you said, what choice do I have? But then now that you have a choice as well, but that you're this walking
lifestyle. It's a lifestyle for us.
Walking circus, but it's a lifestyle, exactly. Yeah. At one though that, like you said, I think in time they'll understand and they'll be better off for it. I believe that. Okay, that was the buzzer right there. So we will pause, and then coming up, we will have more with Coach Lacee and Coach Lacee, Dr. Lacee, all the things,
Dr. LCJ, all the things.
Yes, all the things. But keep it right here. You're watching Mama and Her. Stay with us. Welcome back to the third quarter now. So, Lacee, I just want to jump right back into something you had said in the second quarter about you and your husband, right? And now you have this large, beautiful family and you guys go everywhere. But you had mentioned that at one point, your career, which was, I'm sure, an opportunity of the lifetime, saying, hey, I'm getting the call up. I have this opportunity with the NBA, with the Toronto Raptors, but that's going to require me to pack up me and potentially all of you, and we're going to go to Toronto. But then your husband also having his own strong career in and of itself. And can you talk to us more just about how that worked itself out? Because the idea of leaving or moving states or moving countries or cities, what have you, can sometimes that would probably be a point of contention for some couples.
Yes. But as someone I think who has journaled a lot and written down kind of what I wanted goal wise, whatnot, I knew I wanted to live in a different country at one point. And I also said I wanted to live by water. Now, in my mind, I thought I was going to be moving to like the Bahamas, not to Toronto.
Not Lake Ontario?
Not
No,
Mississauga.
no. But I do live a block from the lake, and that has been like a bit of a saving grace for me. Quite a bit. I'm not swimming in it, but it's very much a grounding source for me. But I think that like my husband, like we understand each other. We understand each other's goals and our desire to like truly impact the spaces that we're in. And we know that like it's gonna take true teamwork. Like he also is a fellow college athlete. Funny enough, we're both hurdlers as well. So like, dealing with barriers is just kind of like the way that we operate in life.
No pun intended.
Yeah, no pun intended at all. We're gonna run right through them. But yeah, we just we find a way to make it work. Yes, have we had some support? Absolutely. With my mom, like, are we in a space that like financially we can help? We can pay for additional help and to like outsource some of the other things that like I just don't care to do, like anything domestic, like cooking and cleaning. I still do cook. I don't like to clean. Very clear about that. But we make it work, and the people that surround us, not just like our support system, but also the folks that we work with and work for, they understand the dynamics, and they're here to like support, because I think they both see the value in what we bring to each of our individual organizations. And it's like, all right. So we're going to find a way to be able to like help and navigate that. And I remember there was someone that I used to work with at the Raptors once told me like, oh my gosh, I remember when you came in probably one of the first couple weeks after you had moved to Toronto, and something happened with the childcare, and you had to bring my middle son, who I think was he was probably 14 months at the time. Wow. And, like trying to find a daycare at that time was, in COVID, not going to happen. Okay. So I had to bring him with me. He's sitting in the office. He's like quiet as a mouse, which is not the same Duke that exists to this day. But like she was looking at me and she's like, I don't know how this is going to work. Like not with this role, not with this job. Like this is probably not going to work out in her favor the way that she thinks. And she straight up told me like 3 years later, she's like, I look at you and I see you thriving in this, and I see, your kids who have just, grown in this community, and the impact that you're making and how other women see you. And it's like giving them the space to know that they too can do it. Yeah. And it's not, I don't live my life to, have other people do and emulate what I do. I just want to live my life to have other people be bold and like live authentically as themselves. So whatever that looks like for you, own it. This is what our life looks like. This is our crazy. I'm trying to tell you, not everybody can live in this crazy, but we love it. We're going to continue to thrive in it. And that's that on that.
Not that this is a marriage like counseling session, but just curious for those people who are married, what like the importance of communication with you too. Because I like even just hearing your schedules, just how important has that been for your relationship? And obviously you have such a supportive husband and partner, and I don't know if that, it's not always the case, right? But how has communication helped you in your marriage, and for both of you to thrive in your dream jobs and your careers
and like stay on the same page?
Yeah. So I think it's like two different types of like communication. The like operations piece of it, where everybody needs to know where each person is, so that like no kid is not left behind. No kid is left behind, or somebody isn't picked up from the airport, or whatever the case is. Like that is like to a science. I mean, it's down. If it's not down, there's like a side eye from the other person. Even if it's like 2 months out, like why is it on the calendar? Why can't I see it? I need to be able to like visually put all of these things in line. And then there's just like the other piece of the communication of understanding your partner as a person, and like in the marriage piece of it. So yes, like from an actual marriage therapy standpoint, like we see a therapist to make sure that we are on the same page, and like having to be able to work through that. As great of a communicator as I am, like from an operational standpoint, from like the work standpoint, like that's something that I've like struggled with, is like, okay, this is what I feel. This is what I need. This is like, am I like loving in your love language that allows for you to feel like wanted and desired as well. And so that's like that fine line, that balance that is like constantly needing to be worked on. But that's also the understanding that each person has to take accountability for where they are in it and where they falter. And like, I will be the first to admit, like, I'm not always the greatest at that. Probably, I'm definitely like the lower, the non-better half on that portion of it.
You mentioned like, it takes work, therapy, and that's as like partners, right? That's as husband and wife. And how do you feel like navigating parenthood too, right? Like and I'm sure Shan, you can relate to, ebbs and flows of maybe feeling like at some points like a roommate with your husband as opposed to being your actual husband, right? Because you're just in the thick of like, well, listen, the kids the kids come first right now because they're so little. Can you speak to that season?
Look, I was pregnant, I think 5 years straight from like 2019 to 4 years straight. Now, so I like used to make a joke, and I said in 2024, one place I'm not going is labor and delivery. Not happening. And it's simply because I had like several miscarriages, like before Duke, and then 2 in between Duke and Jackson. So like, there's, a lot of like little baby angels that are always like looking over and like watching over us and whatnot. And I'm grateful for those experiences, even though they were like super like tough. But I think that it's always going to be teamwork with him. I'm so grateful like for him. I like to say I'm the ultimate teammate, but he truly is like my ultimate teammate as well.
Yeah, he sounds like your perfect pair.
He is.
And your perfect, wait, that doesn't make sense. He sounds
My
like
perfect
your
match.
Your perfect half or match. Yeah, perfect pair, because then he's like 2 of him. So talking about working, did you have any mom guilt, taking on this career? And obviously it was a big career change and maybe a dream job that you got.
You mentioned it's been a year, or did you say 4?
4.
It's 4 seasons.
4 seasons. Oh, okay.
Yes.
No,
So
because
4
I was
years.
just thinking, because your youngest right now is 18 months.
Yes.
And so like, I'm thinking even to myself, being in season while pregnant and having a job where you have to essentially make sure you are on top of a roster of grown men. And like,
You are really a boy mom.
I
Yeah,
am. I
truly.
am. I
Through
said
and
my dim boys. Dim boys is my little boys, and then the big dim boys.
big boys.
Yeah, I was doing a exercise with our players last summer with some of our incoming or our rookies from this past season, and so we were talking about time management and whatnot, and having them draw out some different things. And so I had my pie chart, and I had like an area for dim boys, and I said dim big boys, and they're like, "Who's dim big boys?" And I was like, "Y'all." Like, this is where I spend my time. Yeah, I think that my husband and I do like different like check-ins with each other, like one-on-one, to see like where we are like within our marriage, but also like from a parenthood standpoint. And I think that's like been super helpful, like to, there's like good cop, bad cop. There's, trying to understand like how to parent each of our kids in like the different seasons. And then even what that kind of looked like dealing with postpartum, and like how he could best support me through all of that, and like going through loss, and like how to support one another, through that, because it's not just me that's like dealing with it. Like, yes, it's happening like within my body, but also like this is someone who is like, been along the way and along the journey as well. But I like think about the times how each pregnancy was different, each postpartum journey was different, and like how the support helped along the way, but then also the professional piece of it and like navigating that was so completely different for each one of them. And going through this last experience was, while I felt like I was getting I wasn't necessarily a fan of like the Canadian way of doing things, but it ended up being the best thing for me. And I can see that now on the other side. And I'm truly like an advocate for women to get the support that they need, to have the time off that they need, and to truly mother how they want to. Some women want to go back to work. Some women want more time off.
Right.
And that's not for anybody to judge in your own shoes or judge somebody else's shoes.
Yeah. You mentioned having, like, you have great joy with your 3 boys, but then you've also experienced the complete opposite and great loss with your miscarriages and, like you said, with your angels. How was coping? And especially because there was that gap, like you said, of 2 in between your middle and your youngest. Did your faith ever falter?
No, not at all. Like after what was my 3rd miscarriage, and it caused me to completely black out. I ended up having to be rushed to the hospital, had a blood transfusion, like all of the things that like could have gone wrong. And I remember once I finally made it back home, I really and truly thought about, like, God gave me another opportunity to live, because had I not been with my best friends in that time, I might not be here today. And so like that just gives you a different perspective on life, right? And then to end up pregnant, I think maybe 8 weeks later, was something I was not expected. And then to go through that pregnancy, and I ended up with, being in like high risk for essentially most of the time, having to do like all of these different things. And it just had me like so nervous that like something was going to go wrong.
Yeah.
And, being in season and not wanting to like tell anyone, because you don't want to seem soft in this male dominated world. You don't want to.
You got so much mental gymnastics going on.
Yeah. And like just trying not to like be big and pregnant and like, hiding it, and knowing that I had already had to do that before with like some of my clothes, because I was pregnant again during the first part of the season. So I feel like I honestly I spent like all of 22, 23 season like pregnant. Like I was pregnant on the front end, I was pregnant on the back end of it, and then had the baby and
hiding it.
I know, and
doing a lot of hiding
the entire time. I remember when the guys came back that summer, they were like, "Whoa, what is this?" I'm like, "Yeah, see what had happened was." But that's what happened with my second too, because I had first shown my belly at work the day the world shut down for COVID.
Wow.
And so there was a lot of people that weren't there that Friday. And then by the time we all made it back into the facility, I think that October, November, I had a 4-month-old baby and they're like, where did this come from?
Hilarious.
You mentioned being soft, and I use like air quotes around it, soft in a male dominated industry. And I'm sure that maybe women in our community right now that work in male dominated spaces can relate to that. How do you balance that? Because you have this feminine motherly instinct about you, having gone through what you've gone through, but then working in a space where sometimes that's good, but then sometimes it's like, I can't let them see that side of me.
Well, it's a struggle. It's a very like crazy space to try to navigate. It's one thing for me to work in the NBA right now. Okay. It is much more progressive and forward when it comes to having women in this space. But one thing, like I haven't talked about at all, but I worked in football for 8 years. So
College football.
Okay. And if
Way
you know anything
less
about,
progressive.
not way less, like the only, okay. Like you're like my mentor and I talk about, first only different. And that's something that I've probably carried through so many places so many like roles throughout my career. And so like you don't have anybody else to really lean on, and especially anybody else like with kids, if they are, it's like maybe a younger woman who is just trying to get into it, and then they're looking at you like, how do you balance this? How do you do, X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, I'm just out here making it work. I'm literally winging it every day, and there's no plan, no blueprint. I'm really out here we just figuring it out. So I think being over in the NBA, and it's a blessing to work in a team that truly values having women in this space. And I can't I can't say this because I haven't seen the statistics, but I've seen enough women around the league to understand that I think we have hands down the most women on the basketball side in the league. And like, it's something that we're really, really proud of. And you look at us and like, we're all over the place with, women who have kids, women who don't have kids, women who have older kids, women who are going through maternity leave right now and like having to like navigate all of this like as an organization. But it is tough as a woman to know that sometimes when you walk in rooms, like, you're just going to be judged and people are going to put their own biases in front and say, regardless of how qualified you may be for X, Y, and Z, we're going to take the person who's a little less risk than you.
Ooh. Yeah.
And so, that's real. That's real. That's something that I have dealt with at every stage in my career, but it's also, I know who I am. I know what I bring to the table, and it makes me work so incredibly hard to like show that and like have those receipts. But at the end of the day, like, I can't control what other people do. So I know that God is always going to go into the rooms before me. Where I'm supposed to be is where I am. The roles I'm supposed to occupy is where I'm going to occupy. And so even now, as I try to figure out, okay, transition wise, like, if there's something that's next, like, do you continue to build out here? Do you like grow, expand? Like, what does that look like? I don't know. God got it, because I got enough going on with my circus.
with your circus, yeah, exactly. Oh no, I think that's amazing, because I remember we had this. I asked this question, I think, to a previous guest where, it feels like in the past, like maybe if you look back 10, 15 years ago, being a mom was like a detriment. And I'm sure you probably felt that in that season, like you said, when you were working in football, maybe because unfortunately, like you said, first or only, right? But do you feel like now, and perhaps that's also because of the environment that you're at, like with a team that is very welcoming and leans into it, that it is a superpower of yours now?
I've always looked at it as a superpower. I looked at the fact that I'm a Black woman in sports as a major superpower. Like, I got a PhD, so nobody could ever tell me that I wasn't qualified.
Come on.
And I wasn't the smartest. I may not be the smartest person in the room, but I'm definitely one of the most educated. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
Sorry for
that's okay.
That's okay. But I know that, like, what I bring, I understand what I bring to the table. And I'm also okay with building my own table if I have to.
And you're definitely paving the way. Even like I said, just seeing you and just how you carry yourself and your integration of your family and your kids. But you're also a mentor. You mentor me, and I've learned so much about myself and just seeing how you live your life. But why is mentorship so important to you, to mentor the younger generation of women and girls?
Because I didn't have it. I didn't see women who were like me in places and spaces that I wanted to be in. And then some of the women that I did see, I didn't necessarily see myself in them.
Right.
And so what is it? Be what you can't see. Like, I'm always going to like try to pay it forward so that if someone can avoid the landmines that I had to deal with, like, that's going to save you years on your career. I don't look at my career like, if I would have stayed here, then I could have been X, Y, and Z. Like, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I want to be able to help other people to get to where they're supposed to be. I have always had like kind of like a mentoring group, and it was men, women, all races. But as of recent, and I think just maybe with the most recent like U.S. election, like, I really had it's almost like a burden on my heart that like I knew I needed to cater to women, because it is so tough when you work so hard and you feel like you're not seen. Yeah. And it's like, I feel like I've like worn that on my shoulders for a long time. And if I can help other people to not have to go through that, or at least be able to navigate it much easier and have someone to be able to talk through, like, I think that is like super, super important.
It's definitely important, and so is that buzzer. But as we do wrap up the third quarter, and to that point, like you said, you feel like you have a bit of this weight on your shoulders for the next generation. I don't like to use the word juggle, because I know we all know that it doesn't, like, the balance, right? But it does appear like you got all these balls juggling like in the air at the moment, all at the same time. And so whether it is putting on your mentor hat, your wife hat, your mom hat, your coach, professional development hat, all of these different hats, how do you find the flow of life because you have so many to balance?
I actually did my research on this for my doctoral dissertation. And instead of looking at it as work-life conflict, it's like shifting the mindset of like work-life integration. And in doing that research, and when you looked at work-life conflict versus like work-life enrichment, when the mindset shift helps for more people to actually stay in coaching. And so that was, I when I started my PhD, I actually was still a coach, and then I had transitioned out. But I find that to be true just in my life. Like, it's all about the perspective, the mindset. Yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, there's going to be ebbs and flows. It's like, what's most important? What do they say? Like, if you have a toddler crying or you have a baby crying and you have a toddler who's doing something, like, who do you tend to first? You tend to the toddler, who is going to have more memory of like what's happening and how it's going to help them. And like, the baby is okay crying for a couple more minutes if they're wet or not wet, they're dry, they're fed,
they're good.
Yeah, they're okay.
They're
so
safe, yeah.
so it's the same thing. It's like, okay, priorities. What's most important right now?
Right.
My kids, like, oh, you need to do this, that, and the other. But like, have I not seen my husband in 11 days? I probably need to tend that direction.
For sure.
That's great advice.
It is. It's really good advice. We're going to hold it right there, and we are pretty much going to wrap things up in the fourth quarter, talking about some gems that Lacee has plenty of. So keep it right here. You're watching Mama and Her. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the fourth and final quarter with Lacee. What a great conversation. So I'm going to ask you this question, because you are doing a lot, and you do it with such grace and strength, but obviously it's not as easy as it looks. So in order to do what you do, to a mama of three beautiful boys, like what are three things that you do to help you be successful?
I think scheduling is first and foremost. Like, I'm very like structured when it comes to that, and it's kind of crazy because in the world of the NBA, like, everything changes on a dime. But I think working in football really helped to prepare me for that, because you would have X, Y, and Z scheduled, and then it went out the window and you had to like figure it out and pivot. So the structure piece of it is like super important. My like personal well-being is super important, and something that I'm like really on this journey as of late is just truly not even finding balance, but really leaning into like the boundaries in like the year of me. So what is it that I need to be successful? Because I don't want to pour from an empty cup. Matter of fact, I want to pour from the overflow. Okay? I want to pour from overflow. So if I'm not full, it's not fair for me to myself to like try to keep giving to other people. Yeah. And then having a partner who is down for you. Like, I cannot express like how important that was. That decision to become one, and to know that like we're gonna be through the ups, the downs, the good, the bad, but like we're gonna navigate this crazy world that we have, and we're gonna do it with grace. And there's so many people who are like, oh, y'all are a power couple. It's like, all right, cool, like we just out here making it. That's how we
call it what you want, but we're out here making it work. Yeah, no,
I love it.
Of course, as you mentioned, like you've had a number of platforms, right? Like you've worked in collegiate football, you're now working in the NBA. When it comes to like different teams and like different structure, like, is there any sort of preference? Like, is there a sport preference that you have, or has working in the league, because this was like you said, your first team in the NBA, was it what you expected? Has it been a journey? Has it been? You tell us about that.
Once upon a time, I used to say that I was going to be the first female head coach in the NBA. So when I got the job in the NBA, like several of my college teammates were like, oh, I remember when you said you were going to like work here. Now, honestly, I don't know, especially as I got into my career, I don't think I like ever really thought about working in the NBA. If you would have said I was going to work in pro sports, I it probably would have been football. I am a football girly through and through. I'm from Texas. Like, football is a religion. That's what, my mom tried to move my baby shower because my cousins had a football game. So, like, I'm just...
Americans don't play about football.
It is.
Is she a Cowboys fan?
Oh, my dad, like, we're tried and true. Like, I have... family pictures in the jerseys. Like, we took them at the little, photo studio. I have my Deion Sanders. So for everything that happened to Shadur Sanders, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Because I've been down for the Sanders family since day one.
Yeah.
Since day one. Yeah. But I'm a football girl. Like, I do enjoy basketball. I played it for many years. It's like really cool to be able to be in the space. I do not take that for granted. I have several of my colleagues who we worked in college who now work in the pro. And so it's like cool to be able to see them and to like compare notes and to connect, and actually going to a conference with some of them coming up. So, yeah, I mean, I think just team sports in general is my jam, even though I was a track athlete and it's individual, but team sports are my jam.
Now, you mentioned like not really necessarily having a dream job, but is there a certain role or a certain league or something that you would want to at least be able to check off of your list?
I think if you had to do something by title, it might be something like a chief of staff or like chief operating officer, something in that regard, because like I truly, what is so important to me, like at my core, is yes, wins and losses are important, but it's also about bringing in like recruiting, retaining like the staff that work around these folks. So yes, I want the players to do well, and I want them to like excel at their dreams, but I also want the staff to like feel that same type of love and that same type of success, because I truly feel like the organizations, like you run as a machine. And so like if all facets of the machine are moving well, like it's not just the fact that the players are putting the ball in the hoop, it's the medical treatment that goes with it, it's the travel that happens with it, it's the coaching that's happening on the side, it's the life coaching that's happening, outside of that, it's the GMs like putting the team and the construction together, the operations folks who are making sure everything running. So like I just think it's like so great to be able to move all of that together. And I think that would probably be, like, all right, I did it, but you know how it is, you move the goalposts when you get there. And so, I mean, as for where I am, in this moment in time, like I'm content. And that's something I'm really trying to like find and thrive in this season of my life.
Lean into where you're at, where God has you right now.
Because the most important job that you have is the one that you have right now.
Love that.
So I see the post with the Raptors. There's so many fun things that happen at practice, and I see you in there dancing, and you get to see all the fun behind the scenes. So just speaking of Raptors, because maybe our viewers want to know who on the Raptors, players-wise, is like the most silly and fun, or I don't know, like who would you say?
I will say this, like what you see on social is not a facade. Like that is very much so like who these players are, and it's so fun to like watch them come out of their shell. I know Brandon Ingram, when he joined us, he was saying like, oh, I hope the guys will bring out the silly in me and like see a different personality. And what he was maybe before he got here, and like this personality that's like continued to evolve, like you've seen that because of how Scotty, operates, how Emmanuel Quickly is out there, how the rookies are during the, I don't want to say the anthem when they probably should be paying attention to the anthem, but they're making like the funny faces, and it's like a whole album of just like foolery, every day. But it's truly fun, and like the coaches, buy into it as well. And that's one of the benefits of having a young team. They're going to grow together. And these are the culture moments that are going to make champions one day.
Yeah.
What is something that you just absolutely love about the role that you currently play for the Raptors right now?
Oh man, seeing the light bulb moments of success. I started 4 seasons ago. So the 2 Raptors that were here then, actually I started 2 weeks before we drafted Scotty. So really it was just one, current Raptor. But seeing the growth in them is, it just makes your heart smile. It makes all the headaches that you had to deal with. It's like, okay, I can see it. It takes time. I used to always say working in football that it would take 3 years for them to kind of get to where they needed to be. And in college football, you have to stay in school for 3 years before you can even think about going pro. One of the things in the NBA is a lot of players come in, after their first year.
Yes.
So though they're still in that 3-year window, and that's hard for folks to understand because they're millionaires, and it's like they're supposed to be professional. Do they know what professional is? Have we explained what our version of professional is? And have we helped to teach and guide them along the way? And so being able to see that come into fruition, being able to see the moments of becoming fathers, buying their first homes, having a business, launching a foundation, seeing that and being in those moments behind the scenes, because I don't like to be in front of the camera. I think it's so fulfilling, and it's like a reminder that I'm constantly walking in my purpose.
Yeah, and this just shows just how important your role is with this organization, and you're changing their lives. And we have to always remember, professional athletes are humans, and often kids who are learning, and it's just, they're blessed to have you in their lives. I don't know if you guys know, but Dr. Lacee has her own hashtag, hashtag LCJGems. And these are things that you've said and tweeted and threaded with... Tweeted. Yeah.
I don't know what the
thread thing
term is.
Tweeted, because I love that Twitter that you've put out there, and these are just motivational statements, and they're amazing. So can you just share with our community a couple?
Yeah. So I try to save them so that I can always rely back on them whenever I need to. So I'll just kind of...
When you have to motivate yourself.
Yeah. No. And honestly, that's what people don't understand. The gyms, I'm not writing the gyms for anybody else. I'm writing the gyms as a reminder to myself. And if you don't use the app Time Hop, you should, because it puts all of your social things together, and even your pictures. And so each day of each year,
will remind you where you
at.
Yeah,
and can tell you. And so right now I have pictures from years ago when I was in college, when I was, getting ready to graduate and doing this, that, and the other. So
I think it's Time Hop?
Cool. Time Hop, yes. Okay, so here's one. It says, no one else's shine will stop yours. Celebrate your people. They deserve it. There's enough sunshine for all of us. The art of trying is priceless. It really can surprise you.
I like that.
When the door closes and you show back up to buy the whole building, what's for you is for you. That's one of my favorites.
Hello.
There's a story behind that. I won't share on here, though. This was one after, this was 5 days after I had my youngest son. Zone defense. Selective yet intentional decision-making. Knowing when to effectively switch and utilize your teammates. Being selfless for the greater good. These are my takeaways from week 1 as a mom of 3, working in the world of sport and leadership lessons in general.
Wow. That's
truly combining passion with purpose with motherhood all into one.
That's me. That's what I love
it. Well, we have to wrap up. But before we do our final 5.
Yeah.
Just rapid fire questions that you will answer organically and just however you feel.
In a sentence, in a word, whatever comes to mind. All right. So first question is, motherhood is?
Organized chaos.
What is the best advice about motherhood you've ever been given?
Do it your way.
What is the worst advice you think you've ever been given?
It's not a piece of advice, but is anybody who's ever given those little pajamas that have the snaps
that don't have zippers?
Yo, zippers only. Okay?
Zippers only.
Zippers only.
Facts.
I don't know who created that, but that's the worst.
I think I've probably, in hindsight, I've been guilty before I became a mom of gifting those. I will never, ever again to anyone else.
It's the worst.
It is.
I'm having flashbacks when I couldn't get
at 2 a.m, trying to find which button and realizing it's the wrong one.
And then in the morning the buttons are all off.
All crinkled. Yep.
Okay. I wish my mom told me
to love me first before loving others.
That's good. And what would you tell your younger self if you could?
It'll never turn out like you wished for, but it'll be everything that you needed in that moment.
I really like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
Lacee, thank you so much for saying yes, for coming by, and honestly for sharing not only your wisdom, but your story. Super inspiring, extremely resilient, and like Shannon said, just a very inspiring person, like across the board. So we appreciate your time. And I'm sure our viewers like took away some kind of gem in these 60 minutes, probably multiple gems, but no, we really appreciate your time.
No, this was dope. Y'all are doing some amazing things, and I just appreciate you giving more mamas the opportunity to tell their story.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, and especially because like you're the epitome of someone like it may not be quote unquote conventional, but you're doing it and you're thriving and you're doing it well
and doing it
well. Exactly.
Where can people find you on the socials if they want to follow?
I am Mrs. MRS Coach Lacee. On all the platforms.
Awesome.
Amazing. Lacee, thank you so much. And yeah, as far as our community goes, you already know where you can find us at Mama and Her Podcast. We appreciate you. Every like, comment, every subscription, we appreciate it. And we appreciate you always tuning in. So on behalf of Shannon and myself, we'll see you next time.